one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And a moment of silence for the men and women in the armed forces. Thank you.
Open meeting, or say anything first? Okay. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules per Rule 11 of the New Milford Town Council Policies and Procedures. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Can I speak first?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Francis. So I'd like to talk about suspending the rules, and which rule number are you looking to suspend, Councilwoman Francis?
Rule number 11.
Rule number 11. And rule number 11 is which one in our?
Right here. Would you like me to read it?
Yes, ma'am. So the public can understand what rules in the Town Council rules and procedures are.
Rule number 11 states, upon 3 days written notice to each member of the Town Council, the mayor or his designee may schedule a special meeting of the Town Council as he or she deems necessary, but only after the mayor, A, explains to each member of the Town Council the reason for such special meeting, and B, confirms that 5 members of the Town Council are available to meet on the proposed date. The agenda for such special meeting, including enclosures and all other relevant information, shall be available for pickup by the members of the Town Council at least 3 days prior to such special meeting. The 3-day notice requirement may be waived if the mayor believes that a condition exists that is or may cause an immediate danger to the health, safety, or welfare of the residents of the town or to town-owned property. The mayor shall be required to call a special meeting upon written petition of 5 members of the Town Council. The days that are counted or excluded for regular meetings shall also apply to special meetings. Members of the public may address the Town Council at a special meeting, but may only address matters that are on the agenda.
Thank you, Councilwoman Francis. And to Attorney Grimes. Attorney Grimes, is this town meeting, or is this Town Council special meeting, is it violating the charter?
No.
Is it violating state statute?
No, sir.
Our town rules for the Town Council rules and procedures, are they dictated by Robert's Rules of Order?
They are.
And Robert's Rules of Order number 25 allows an organization to suspend the rules of procedures upon a vote of 2/3 of the membership. Is that correct?
That's rule number 5, I believe.
That is correct.
25.
So I'd like to also explain why I've asked for this meeting 24 hours after our budget hearing. Attorney Grimes, with your due diligence, how many other towns either have a call for a special meeting the day of the budget after it fails or the next day?
Mayor, I looked at 14 municipalities, most of which are in our area, and with one exception, a town that was affected severely by the storm, they all are scheduled for the day after the vote, or for something like Reading the night.
Thank you. Also, when we've had other meetings, I've listened to the public. I would have liked to have had this meeting on Friday. I could have had it on a Saturday, but I had people in this audience tell me that Fridays and Saturdays were not good for religious observance. So I listened to what they said, and I agree with them. Also, I heard from our town clerk, who has to order the new ballots. I've also heard from our voter registrars that need time to set up the new referendum date. Also, we're approaching the end of our fiscal year. So I wanted to be prudent and proactive and come out with you, the public, an opportunity so that we could get this budget done and approved before the end of the fiscal year. So that's why I asked. That's why I'm asking this Town Council to suspend the rules, Robert's Rules, and we can move forward, and our town rules and procedures. Thank you.
I second that motion, so we're up for a
Right.
vote.
Call for vote.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Can you make note that was unanimous for those members that were present? Next, public participation. Councilman Bear.
Mr. O'Connor, please. Walter O'Connor.
Walter O'Connor, 3 Cortlandt Drive, here in Milford. Basically, I just want to make a little bit of a critique of the council. The last time we had here for an adjustment on the budget, they made adjustments on a budget that was never voted on by the people, and a lot of the people never saw it. The adjustment made on the town council work in progress budget. A lot of people didn't know it, were very confused by it. There was a lot of confusion after that meeting and during the meeting as to what was actually happening. Even up to the day of voting, I was getting calls from people trying to have me explain what exactly the council did. So I wish the council, any adjustments it makes on this new budget, new referendum, make it off the budget that the people voted on, so those numbers that they know. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Harris, please.
Good evening, my name is Alan Harris, 16 Geiger Road in Milford. I am the fire chief of the Northville Volunteer Fire Department. These are basically remarks that I made at a Board of Finance meeting a couple of months ago, so I'm just going to reread them. The town of New Milford is fortunate to have a dedicated group of professional, brave volunteers. They have served and protected this community for decades selflessly and have risked their lives and personal safety to assist our residents and their property. The Fire Department Capital Fund was established in the mid-1980s. Original funding at $150,000 annually. With a contribution from the town, we've been able through the years to replace our apparatus in an orderly and timely fashion. Budget year 2014-15, the contribution was finally increased to $250,000 as the original amount became insufficient to the rising cost of apparatus. I may add, we had to wait several years after initial requesting the increase before it finally happened. 3 New Milford departments, Waterwich, Gaylorsville, and Northville, administer this fund through long-range projections, and it is administered by the fire chiefs. We have always been frugal with these funds and have always provided good stewardship. Over the next several years, the apparatus due to be replaced will be between 26 and 38 years old. Our equipment needs to be safe and it needs to be reliable. The safety of our firefighters and the public is paramount. Since its inception, the contribution has never been cut or altered. We have always felt that the fire departments and the services we provide have always transcended the politics. I implore you to reinstate the $25,000 that was cut so that the safety of our firefighters and public is not compromised. Thank you.
Thank you. Rod, is it Weinberg?
Rod Weinberg, 10 Two Rivers Lane, New Milford, Connecticut. I'm having a hard time understanding the process after 2 referendums. It's very simple to me in a democracy where people vote and their vote counts. But right now, I don't see the will of the people being addressed at all concerning the votes that are happening right now. Example, the town budget passed and was cut. The school board budget failed, the numbers stayed the same. First referendum. Second referendum, the same process. We're going to go through a 3rd referendum, and there's an article here that says the town council is going to keep the numbers the same on the Board of Education. It's like bouncing a ball against the same wall and going nowhere. When are people going to learn? Referendums cost money. It seems like a big waste of money right now, going referendum after referendum, and you're doing the same thing. School numbers are down, costs are down. Yes, the union says that the health care is up. The state right now has given the Board of Ed $1.5 million, of which 1.1 is going directly to the Board of Ed. Those numbers are now plus numbers, which were unexpected numbers, okay? All right. Why isn't that added into the mix? Stated such. Why isn't the Board of Ed numbers going to be reduced on the next referendum? The people have spoken. Nobody seems to be listening to the people. This is a democracy. It should function around the people. Why are we banging our heads against the wall and getting nowhere? Somebody should wake up and listen to the people. That's what we do here. That's what we say we do, but we're not doing it. Referendums cost money. It seems to be a big waste of money. We keep on doing the same thing and getting the same reaction. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rod. Jeff Winter, please.
Jeff Winter, 22 Maury Road. I find it cute that you voted to suspend Town Council Rule number 11 before the meeting even started. As you know, one of your colleagues, Peter Mullen, is not able to be here tonight, and yet he did send a letter or an email that you may have received. And it specifically regards this particular rule that you all voted for and approved on December 4th, 2017. You actually made it more stringent for special meetings to be called, because you found the words, for instance, I believe it was exigent need did not meet the standard of the meeting called November 28th by David Gromback, because he only gave 1 day of notice. Now, this is a special meeting, so why does this body, you can give all the excuses you want, but I believe I can quote the mayor from the minutes where you actually said that you will follow the charter, and you will follow it to the letter. The charter does not call for these, but the town, and as the town attorney ruled, or I shouldn't say ruled, but wrote in his opinion, dated December 1st, that the town council rules take precedent. And the rules that each of you supported called for, as you stated, that special meetings must have 3 days' notice, unless the welfare or there is danger to the population of New Milford. I'm sorry, health, safety, and welfare. Now granted, at the storm a couple weeks ago, I would certainly agree with that. But as far as I can tell, the health, safety, and welfare of the residents of New Milford is not being endangered by this meeting being called properly. Nor was it being endangered on November 28th. Yet there was quite an uproar, and it was enough to get this body, everyone except for Mr. Bayer and Mr. Mullen, who's not here, to actually declare a meeting illegal. And yet now, I mean, what is it? Were you right then and wrong now? Are you wrong now and right then? I mean, you really have to think about it, because this isn't just a matter of policy. This is a matter of, can you look your constituents in the eye and say, you know what? We really do follow the rules. We tell the truth. We care. And for those of you who also like to use the word, we follow process. Now, which process is it going to be? The one that you voted for specifically on December 4th? Or the one that you kind of just throw up in the air and say, well, you know what, we'll suspend the rules today because it's convenient to us? What do you say to the townspeople? I mean, frankly, they're all disappointed because considering that the Republican majority here voted for the budget that was turned down twice, and people don't like the way you voted on it, what are they to believe? Where do you stand? And let's take it one step further. We know very well that someone or somebody or multiple people have taken to the point of mailing quite a bit and putting up signs around town with a fake return address and no return address. and they've clearly spent in excess of the legal limits. So who's influencing that process? We don't know, but we will know. And when that comes, you have to call into question what your actions are and what you've been doing. But most importantly, why are you waiving the rules now?
Jeff, you have a minute, please.
What gives you, I mean, I guess you have the right to do it. I guess you do. But then frankly, again, you're all going, every one of you voted for this, you're now going back on your word. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Deborah, I can't pronounce your last name here.
Van Drinken.
Okay.
Took me a lot to learn how to pronounce it. About there.
Thank you.
Deborah Van Franken, 6 Glenbrook Drive. Hello again. So here we are facing another referendum. As you discuss what to do with the school budget, I would ask that you consider that when a 0% increase, the flat budget for next year was on the table, that there was a townwide outcry. People flooded the Board of Finance meeting at SNIS. There were emails, letters, and even an entire grassroots organization that formed in response in support of our schools. The razor-thin margin by which the school budget fails shows that the town is split nearly down the middle, a situation that makes it difficult for any elected official, and I don't envy you. But it is a situation that calls for consideration and compromise. The resulting reaction from before makes it clear how much of the town does not want a flat school budget. The ramifications of such a cut will have been detailed by experts both in and out of the school system and will negatively affect every single aspect of the town. The citizens of New Milford understand this, and I think that's why there was such a strong and unified negative reaction to the idea of it. So again, I urge you to consider a flat budget off the table in this next referendum. I'd like to end on a positive note, at least from me, that the grassroots organization I mentioned, to me, is a silver lining and a positive sign of our community coming together to work toward common goals. I hope you can keep that idea of New Milford as a community and compromise in mind as you consider the school budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Mary Jane Lundgren, please.
Good evening, Mayor Bass, Town Council members. Glad I'm not sitting there tonight. She's looking at your third budget. But I'm here tonight in an effort to help resolve the town budget issues in a bipartisan manner. As chair of the Democratic Town Committee, I'd like to offer support in passing the budget with the following conditions. Board of Ed, no additional cuts. Apply the $1.1 million in educational cost-sharing funding to the Board of Education. As Mr. Esposito has said year after year after year, if our schools are scored poorly, our town's going to do poorly. Our property values are going to fall. This is a critical factor. And take a look at Ansonia. Ansonia is closing their schools early because they don't have any funding for their schools. That's a pretty sad state of affairs. And I just feel like if New Milford goes any lower, we may be in the same bracket as Ansonia, which would be devastating to this town and devastating to our students. Also on the town side, you need to account for expected revenue. Police, $418,000. Public Works driveway permit fees at $15,000. This will add up to $383,000 in revenue to the town side. $400,000 in additional state revenue has presumably already been applied for an additional $743,000 in revenue. Cut the grant writer position for $55,000. Cut the economic development and personnel line for $150,000 savings. The prior EDC director made somewhere between maybe $75,000 and $80,000. $150,000 is exorbitant. This is a total of $988,000 in additional money. Restore the town planner for $78,000, the park and rec maintainer for $51,000, the aquatic director and senior swim instructor for $7,784, the ambulance $2,053, the tree warden $7,500, the fire department $55,000, we're talking about public safety here. And it's the same with the police department. The cuts are still there. There's no more personnel coming in. The youth agency personnel, $100,000. Sullivan Farm, $20,000. Max Catering, $10,000. John Pettibone Community Center maintenance for before and after school program, $2,000. Public Works building maintenance at Pettibone, $7,000. Social services overtime and emergency shelter, $3,900. I just think that's deplorable that that has been cut out in this day and age when we have people that are homeless and people that, you know, inadvertently have a fire or what else and have no shelter. The library, operating and capital costs, $80,000. The Lake Authority, $9,900. As Mr. Esposito again would say, the lake is the jewel of the community. It's tourism, it brings in a lot of money to the town in the summer, and they need the money. I just find it deplorable that that's been cut again. And the nonprofits, restored to last year's levels, no increases or no decreases. This is a total of $434,734 in restored funding, offset by $988,000 in revenue savings, resulting in a possible tax increase of $553,000. Hope you'll take these proposals into consideration. You have a tough job, but you need to do a good job and what's fair and equitable to the residents in the town and especially to the school system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. David Lawson, please.
Evening, everybody. My name is David Lawson, 16 White Swan Drive, and another disclaimer, Chairman of the Board of Education. Thanks for allowing me to speak tonight. The dilemma that we're all in is tremendous, and we do understand that. But it is also important, excuse me, that we come to a budget that everybody can support. I know that's your goal, I know that's my goal, and I know that's a reachable goal. But presently, without any further adjustment, the Board of Education will realize a $968,000 reduction. This represents a 0.8% year-to-year increase. The 0.8% increase totals $500,000. Health insurance and other benefits alone are increasing for the Board of Education by $700,000. Thus, when the increases are factored in, the school budget is reduced year to year by $200,000. I understand, I fully understand that the school budget failed twice. We can't change that, but we can work to get a budget that does pass. I think that it is clear that the community is looking for a very clear balance between our quality of education and being responsive to the, well, calls of the community. I know you can do it, and I look forward to you keeping the quality of education up while being cognizant of the needs of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, David. Jeff McBrady, please.
Before I start what I've got to say, I need everybody in this room to understand that I promote education 100% because the students are our future. But I still have to say what I feel is in my heart tonight. So I'm hoping that you will allow me the time to read this. Since you folks were elected last November, you have been behind the 8 ball concerning the budget and what to do to satisfy the people of this town. You were not left in a very good position from the previous administration. You may have had some well-laid plans for the upcoming year, but the state of Connecticut broke the spokes in your wheel when they decided to cut $3.3 million from what the town was supposed to get from them. This caused you to dip into money that we want to leave alone for the future, and in doing so, in my estimation, was conceding to the Board of Education by doing this. Even so, you moved forward and laid out a budget plan for the new year ahead and came up with virtually a flat budget for the town side and an increase from the Board of Education, who was not ready to play ball and never will be with the huge shortfall staring us in the face. You tried several things and left it in the hands of the Board of Finance to come up with the final plan and then present it to you for a referendum, which they did. During the several months leading up to the referendum, you all listened to many different views as to why the Board of Education needed their money, and there was never once any real consideration given to shuffling some money and taking a cut that will cause the voters to pass the budget in May. It was always, we need this, or we need that, or we need this. Now, the budget failed. Then, and everything fell back into the hands, and you had to move some concessions, which you did by dropping $100,000 from the town budget, which really needs to be placed back in there to help fund the fire department, the VNA, etc. And you added $500,000 to the Board of Education budget, which was the original number set forth by the Board of Finance. So my question at this point is this: what in the world would make anyone believe that if the Board of Education budget failed in the first referendum, that an additional $500,000 would make it pass? I feel that the residents of this town, including me, are fed up with the gross neglect laid out by the Board of Education, and it has to stop somewhere. And in this second referendum vote, it failed again. So far, this has cost the taxpayers $36,000 for 2 referendums, and now an additional $18,000 for a third one coming up, which is ridiculous to me to waste $54,000 we don't have to waste. The second one included a $1.5 million addition back to the town from the state, and thus lowered the mill rate to just over 27 per 1,000 of assessed value on one's home. But, and I say but, the state miscalculated their figures by $758 million, and this has put the squeeze on them again and us, the taxpayer. And I do not see the state giving us the $1.5 million they said they would give back to us. My solution to this, and you have to look the Board of Education straight in the eye and say, all you are going to get for your budget this year is exactly what you got last year, until we can find more common ground and direction for all concerned and can depend on the state's word for our future. From tonight, we all have 1 year to get all our ducks in a row and do what is necessary to run the town. We cannot and should not allow the Board of Education to dictate how hard and earned dollars are spent without any concessions, period. They have been raping the town over the years, and it is time to put a stop to it. I say a flat budget for the Board of Education is the right thing to do this 1 year until we can find good, sound, solid foundations to work on. And if you folks of this town council do not act in the very best interest of all concerned in this town you represent, then you, for the first time, have failed us.
Jeff, you have a minute, please.
Is this how you want to move forward, since you all made promises and broken promises are never really fixed once you have been committed, and you're always moving forward trying to figure out ways to overcome the mistakes? So I say to all of you tonight, search your conscience and ask yourself if you want to become failures for your town in just 7 short months, or are you going to take the bull by the horns and tell the Board of Education that they have to shuffle our money on a flat budget because we cannot depend on a $1.5 million return promise from the state that may fall through the cracks? And if you allow this, then the town is in serious shape and will take years to recover from these mistakes. The right thing to help us stay afloat is a flat Board of Education budget, just like the town, and shuffle money to make it work. It is in your hands now, and the future of the town and your future are at stake here. So do the right and honorable thing for everyone concerned, and keep your commitment to moving the town forward with honesty and fair play. Remember, the town council runs the town's business, not the Board of Education. They have been running it for years now, and now it's time to take control back for a change. People may like me and they may hate me for my views, but they are mine, and I feel that my views in this case have merit, and they really cannot see that, then they have not studied the issues from the state to the taxpayer, period. Make the hard decision tonight and tell the Board of Education they get a flat budget for the year 2018-2019 period and send it to referendum. I believe it will pass for sure, and we can move forward and make New Milford the best it has ever been in the future. We are New Milford, all of us. We are New Milford.
Jeff,
And we
you're
can
well
do this
over,
together.
Jeff, you're well over the limit, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jeff. Mr. Mayor, that's the end of the list.
Thank you, sir. Next, discussion and possible action
Item 3.
pursuant to the charter, section 707.
Pete, first, just for the record, I want to clarify, the charter was referenced earlier with respect to section 707 budget referendum. I just want to read that into the record so it's clear. Section 707C states that in the event that any budget submitted to voters in any fiscal year is defeated at the budget referendum, or any subsequent budget is defeated at a budget referendum, the mayor shall, the next business day immediately following the particular budget referendum, refer the town government budget and the Board of Education budget to the town council, which, at a public meeting, may by majority vote of the entire town council recommend town government budget line item modifications, revisions, categorical changes, or bottom line additions or reductions. That's exactly what we've done. It does not reference it as a special meeting. It's part of the budgetary process,
Thank you,
which is
Mr.
part of our
Mansfield.
charter.
Thank you.
With that said, I would like to make a motion. I did prepare a motion that I did present to Mr. Ossipow, and I move to make the following modifications to the proposed budget. Board of Education.
Excuse me, do you have handouts?
Yeah, I do actually.
Thank you.
Let me know whenever everyone has it. Show it out. I move to reduce the Board of Education budget by $300,000 for a total of $63,010,000, $586. I also am proposing a change in the transfer in from the unassigned fund, which is our reserves.
I'm sorry, not to interrupt you. Did you want to do the budget separately or all together?
No, we'll discuss them all together.
Okay.
On the town side, I'm proposing a reduction in the transfer in from unassigned, which is our reserve fund. The budget that failed was $492,724. I am proposing that it be $250,000 for a reduction of $242,724. I am also proposing a modification of the town side budget due to the fact of the state's revenue that I don't feel is guaranteed at all. And with that said, I am proposing that a portion of that revenue be used for the assessor revaluation, which to date has not been budgeted for, which is required in 2020. That in the amount of $600,000. It was currently budgeted at $0. I am also proposing, including budgeting $525,000 for the following capital items. So these are one-time, non-recurring expenditures. And if the money doesn't come from the state, these projects don't get done. Number one is the oil tank for the Sarah Noble School in the amount of $103,980. Number two is the oil tank at East Street School in the amount of $105,108. Number three is the oil tank at Town Hall, which is $73,760. Four is the oil tank at the Police Department, which is $88,243. The last oil tank is Pettibone, which only needs to be removed because we use an alternative fuel source, in the amount of $19,386. I am including in that $60,000 for the POCD creation, which is required statutorily, as well as $74,500 $523 for borrowing costs associated with the roofs that are needed at the Board of Ed for the Sarah Noble School, the Northville School, and the Hill and Plain School, so that the town will be partners in these projects. So that is a capital increase of $525,000.
I'll second that motion.
Do you have any discussion? Lisa?
The revaluation,
Mhm,
you said it's required by law.
mhm.
So we had some idea this was coming?
Yeah.
And so how long a time frame? Is it every, how many years?
It's less than 2010, I believe.
So it's every 10 years, so why hasn't this been amortized every year?
It is not. The can's been kicked down the road. I mean, how much is in that account that's carried in Forster? Like
Approximately $38,000.
Yeah.
How much is the total cost? Is this the total cost of the reval?
No, the last reval was 710,000,
No, 10 years ago, I believe it was
610?
610, 600.
Yeah, 610,000, which is referenced in our budget for, and that was 10 years ago.
So this is 2020, we're doing 18, 19. Sorry to be a little slow here. So after hearing the public and doing a little bit of my own market research, calling constituents, do we have to take this all this year? Or should we?
It's my motion on the table.
Okay.
It's open for discussion.
Okay, I don't know how to do remotion, but let's take it over 2 years. What's the impact of the tax rate of all this? Dare I ask?
Yeah, at that, it's 3.99%.
Increase?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, no. So again, I don't know how to motion this, but can we take it over 2 years? I mean, we're gonna have to pay the money, and I get that, but why are we taking it all this year with all the uncertainty?
But, hold on 1 second, there's one motion on the table already, so we have to do one at a time, I think.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
let's just. No, you can amend it. You can do it. You can
We can
amend
amend
the
it,
motion.
let's just keep discussing, because I'm sure there's.
okay, so I don't wanna take everything, okay, so.
No, you can
Oh,
keep
keep
going.
going.
Well,
You're-
that would be
you're
how I'd like
for
to
it.
amend the motion. Again, we have to pay it, and I don't believe in kicking the can down the road, but I don't think we should take it all this year. I
What
think
are
we
you
should-
proposing?
I'm proposing 300 or 350 this year, take a little bit more than half, and maybe, the rest next year.
I could live with 350.
I have a question. Paul?
Okay.
or
Well, let's
Greg?
hear everyone else's.
Can you tell me what that does to the increase? Instead of 399, it's gotta come down. What would it be?
You took 250,000 off of it, down to 350.
Changing the 600 to what, 300, 350?
Let's go with 350 to start and see where we get to.
Bless you.
3.67%.
Okay, so that's,
Rate 28.25.
okay.
Is there, anybody else have any thoughts on
I-
this item so
I
far?
think I could live with
I would support that.
Paul, you
Well,
made the
before
motion.
I agree to that, I want to hear everyone else's discussion.
Walter, do you have any?
Are we just talking about
Just talking about the
rebound.
the reval.
the reval? My gut feeling is leave it alone. I could live with the 600,000.
So just to be clear, so if nothing else changes, we're looking at a 3.99% tax increase.
Well, let's say 4%.
Let's say 4%.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. I don't know about you, so I called randomly because the vote was so close. Sorry to interject, tell me I'm out of order. I called 28 people at random. It was kind of a good split of seniors versus, people with kids versus people my age. And they were very clear on a couple of things. Some of the things that the public comment participants mentioned, which is, we told you, don't raise the town, cut the BOE. And the other thing they said was, when you do that, we expect our taxes to go down, right? Or our tax increase to go down. So there's an expectation there. This is a complete shock.
What's the number you gave, what's the budget increase for the school? from last year?
200,000.
And that's, what is that, 1% increase or not even?
What?
How many percentage increase is that?
It's less than one.
Wait, we're changing line items?
No,
Okay,
no, we're just discussing the motion.
okay.
Well, I'd like to hear from everyone else.
So we're keeping a, I mean, this, so I get it straight in my head, we're keeping a flat budget in the town from last year and less than 1% for the school. So the main reason it's going up is we're taking the money, we lost money from the state. And what we are getting from the state, we're putting towards capital improvements that have not been budgeted for.
Correct, and the idea is if the state does not give us the money, those capital projects are not funded.
I thought the oil tanks have to get done by the end of this year.
Yeah, so we would then have to borrow at that point and take out a loan as opposed to paying for it, which I'm not in favor of. Because, and the reason is we should have known that these tanks should be replaced, we should have planned for it, and we should have budgeted for it.
When you say you're worried about the state not giving us the money, is this the concern that Malloy vetoed the motion on the table?
No.
And he doesn't have to give us all 1.5 even though?
Well, no, I think it's a bigger picture. I think we need to be realistic, right? So when that budget was approved by the legislature, and I actually printed this out today, when that budget was approved by the legislature, which by the way is an election year budget, it states very clearly that according to the legislature's nonpartisan Office of Fiscal Analysis, the newly adopted budget would run $2 billion in deficit in the 1920 fiscal year. So basically, the budget that they approved is ridiculous. It's unreal.
So you're saying that even though we got 1.5 back, we may not see.
Yeah, and the reason is because I lived this, right? So last year's budgetary process, I was screaming from the rooftops that I don't think we should be counting on this revenue from the state because it's going to be cut. And now it's got cut. And what I'm saying now is, as a council, we need to be fiscally responsible. We need to say, yes, we do have this additional revenue that was just magically gifted to us. And it was magically gifted to us with the understanding that we're going to have a $2 billion shortfall after this budget that includes this magic money, so to speak. And what I'm saying is, let's be responsible with how we spend it. So I'm saying, approximately $1 million of the 1.5 is spent for capital projects that are a non-recurring one-time expense. So if we're caught, then we have an alternative method for financing the oil tanks through a loan, and the reval, I guess we'll have to deal with next year.
Not operating expense, so it's capital, not operating
Correct.
expense.
So these are one-time expenses. They're
So
non-recurring.
What happens to the other $500,000 then?
That is for tax relief.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I got it. Now I got it.
Yeah, so a portion, I'm still proposing a portion of it for tax relief. Because I don't think the full thing's gonna be cut.
We'll get something.
I think it's important for people to understand that, that we all might be quote unquote fat, dumb, and happy this year. And oh, rah, 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 we got the $1.5 million and let's give the Board of Ed this and, restore the nonprofits. But I so agree with you, 2020, which is just right around the corner, $2 billion with the state of Connecticut's going to be in the hole. What makes us think that they're not going to come to us and say, we can't do it? We've got to be responsible this year. And if we have the reevaluation is coming, they know it's going to be about $700,000. We've got to put something in there. I'm so on board with this.
Okay.
As I said at the last time we discussed the budget, I don't have any confidence whatsoever that we're going to get but some small portion of that prior to the election. Once the election happens, the same issues with the budget will be there no matter who is elected governor. And I am definitely in favor of not counting on that. And if we have to take other measures, we do. But again, you have to live with what you have. And if we don't get it, then we'll borrow if we have to, or we won't do it, or whatever the case may be.
Mike?
Just to, clarify something, because we're saying that we're going to give a very small increase to the town, and to the school side. And I know there's going to be people out there that expect more, but in reality, if we get this money from the state, we're actually giving them $525,000. Most of those capital improvements are for, aren't they mostly for school capital improvement projects?
No, not the majority of them,
I
but
thought they were at the tanks. or at the-
Sarah Noble
Town Hall,
and East
Police
Street.
Department.
Okay.
Half.
But it's 200,000.
Yeah. I mean, my
8,000.
worry right now is because, you know, we compromised last time and it got voted down, and my mindset has kind of changed, which is sad, but it's changed to a budget I think is best for the town as opposed to a budget I think is going to pass. Because right now, we're upsetting people that support the original town budget because we took money from the firemen and the DNA and youth agency. We're upsetting people from the school because we're not keeping the original budget that the Board of Finance agreed upon. And I'm just wondering if, with this compromise, are we upsetting more people than will make a compromise happy? And I don't know if the support's there. I mean, we gave the school side what they wanted, yet they didn't come out to support, enough of them didn't come out to support the budget. And now we're at a point, I'm just worried. Compromise doesn't ever seem to get us where we need to go. And that's my bigger fear now is, you know, the budget, in my mind, is a good budget in what we got, especially since we lost all that money from the state. But is it something that we're going to put out there that's going to be supported by the town? Because, you know, we've heard both sides. Don't cut the school budget. Cut the school budget. You know, don't touch the town. Add this back to the town. And my fear is that we're creating a budget that is not being supported by any side.
What's your proposal? Same thing
I
last
don't,
week.
I don't even know if I have a proposal. I mean,
So Paul's got 300,000.
yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Can you live with that? I mean,
No,
can you live
I'm
with
okay with the budget. I'm just worried.
that? The increase is down, it takes the increase down from just about 4.
Yeah, but the people that voted against the budget because they don't want to see tax increases are going to see a 3.6% increase. And that's scary, even though it's because the town cut a bunch of our money, and we are being fiscally responsible because we're having a very slight increase in the town side. I mean, no increase in the town side, and a very, very slight increase on the Board of Ed, but it's still a tax increase that people have to pay. So,
Doug?
Well, my thoughts along with, you know, the people who are supportive of the BOE, they have to understand that it failed twice. And so you have to go with reality that the people don't want the $500,000 increase. So, you know, to deduct the $300,000, they have to understand they have to be, you know, comparable and work with everyone. I'm in agreement with Lisa on the deduction of the reeval. That'll bring it down to 3.6 and change. Is it perfect? No, but we need to put out there what we think will pass because we can't, as one gentleman spoke, keep doing these referendums. So it's tough to make both sides completely happy. So we have to compromise.
I'm just hoping people come support it, because
Right.
we really don't have a choice. I mean, you have, the state put us in a situation, and, you know, then in the last minute, they say, we're gonna get this money back, but then things have happened since then that make us pretty convinced that that money's not gonna happen. I mean, I don't see any other choice with the budget. You know, the only other option is, do we take more from unassigned or not more from unassigned? And the prudent thing to do is not to take it from unassigned, because we don't want to touch that, because there might be a point where we do need that money, and it's not there. So, I see this as the best compromise, and as I said, that's the only real thing that we have, you know, that I think is up for discussion, is how much we take from savings, and I don't want to take more from savings.
So to your point, if I could, or do my add one?
Nope.
Okay. The last part of what you said, I'm okay with getting the budget as close as we can and using kind of an historical amount of unassigned. I feel like that's the right responsibility. And then if we get into the cycle and we find the money doesn't show up, we can dip back into that then. But it isn't that we didn't try here, number one. Number two, again, on the education side, I was surprised at the results. Again, picked some names at random, made some phone calls, that's what I do. And again, the feedback was, the town has done their work. The Board of Ed has not. Please, please hold their feet to the fire. So, you know, I appreciate all the passion on both sides and the impact that it would have, but here's where we are. I still do not like the 3.67% increase. Do not like it. I think it's too high, and I don't think, for the people I spoke on fixed income, that is problematic.
So are you suggesting that we be completely unrealistic with what it really is? Because that's the honest budget that we're putting forward. I mean, if we're,
No, I'm not suggesting that. So I was pouring through the revenue side in desperation.
Before, can we
Oh.
settle kind of on the assessor? So Tom,
Okay.
I'm in agreement. I think, I'll agree with Lisa on this. I think a reduction in 250 out of the 600 for the revow, I could accept that. I think we can make up the difference next year.
so I move to amend the part of the motion of
you can
the,
just change your motion, because
change it.
we haven't
no, it's
voted
gotta
on
be,
it.
no, we have to
Okay.
vote on
You
the
have to
amendment.
vote on it.
Okay, so we're gonna need.
So I move to amend the original motion to reduce the expenditure of the assessor from $600,000 to $350,000.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion on the amended motion?
Does that include?
There's
any
no
items or
discussion
not?
on that, actually. Yeah, you gotta vote.
Wait, if I want
You
to,
can't have discussion. You
okay,
gotta vote on the amendment, there's no discussion.
on the amendment.
On the amendment
Okay.
first.
That's all.
Right.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Now we're back to the
Walter, excuse
amended
me,
motion.
wait,
Now we're
yeah.
back to the amended motion.
Walter was
Does
in
Elaine
opposed.
know?
Walter was opposed.
No, Walter
No.
voted against. So I didn't think you saw
So
it.
you voted against
Yes.
increasing their dollars?
I
I just want to
voted against
understand.
the amendment.
Okay, I just wanted to understand. Okay, again, procedural question, I'm sorry. If
Apologize.
I wanted to look at other categories besides this proposal, does that have to go into a separate amendment, a separate motion?
Yep, you have to move to amend, and there would be no discussion on it.
No discussion on my amendment? Okay, don't get that, but okay.
Robert's rules, not mine.
I know, it's okay. I don't know the amount though, so I'm in a pickle.
We can't discuss.
Do you want to wait to the end
No.
on that piece? Or do you want to do it now?
I don't know.
Well,
what's
she
right
doesn't want to
do.
vote on the budget if we're. if she
Yeah, I
doesn't.
want to do some other things besides this. I want to propose it. Can I not do it in this motion or do I do it separately?
It would be an amended piece, would know, once you did it and got a second, there's no discussion on it.
Okay, you guys tell me how to do it. I got two items
Yeah, I'm also.
on the revenue side.
I'm gonna hear your items. So
Okay.
figure out how we-
You can discuss them before you propose the amendment.
Okay.
Right.
All right, so I was thank you. So I was looking through the revenue side and I was going through the prior meeting minutes and something didn't add up for me and it was interest income. Greg Ossopow, you're gonna have to help me with this. Let me find my spreadsheet, hold on. It went somewhere. So Greg was talking about how our interest income was much higher than in previous years because he's changed the investment profile. And I seem to recall something like $300,000, but when I looked in other revenue, we only have 180 in there. So is there some money there?
Yes, currently, let's see, because of rising interest rates, and I've adopted a more aggressive investment policy. Currently, out of our budget, we have realized as of the end of May, $400,000 at this point in interest income.
On an
We
annualized
budgeted
basis?
for next year 180, so there is an opportunity to increase the revenue line in the interest income area.
How much?
220.
I would say minimum $200,000.
So how do I get that added in?
So you feel comfortable at 200?
We're at 400,000 as of the end of May with one more month to go.
So the current amount is how much?
401.
No, in the budget.
180.
180,000.
So you would make a motion to amend the current amount, which is two?
I
Can she
would-
talk
I
about
would
her other
like-
point first so she make it dual?
Yeah.
Okay. This one's gonna be tougher. You sure you wanna do that, or do we wanna just?
Do it.
Do them
Just
separate.
do it.
Let's do them separate.
Please.
All right. I make a motion to amend the budget,
The interest income.
the interest income as presented in the budget from $180,000 to $400,000? $400,000. What does that do to the tax rate?
So that would be an additional 220,000.
220
Yep.
or 200.
220.
And that would bring our mill rate to 3.38%.
An increase of 3.38.
Made a motion, right? Is there a second? Did you make a motion or no?
No.
She said yes.
Oh, you did?
Right.
Could you
Is there a
rescind the
second?
motion so we can discuss it, because we can't discuss it after it's.
I'd like to
There was no second, right? So it's not.
Okay.
I just want to get a straw poll, like if people aren't okay with, I'm personally okay with it, but if people feel it should be a lower amount, I'm okay with that.
I
too.
feel very comfortable if our finance director over there says that it's a reasonable assumption, then I'm okay with it.
Walter?
I'm good with it.
That we bump it?
Yep.
Why not?
And Greg, you're comfortable with that?
Sure, we're realizing 400,000 as of the end of May now, and I expect interest rates to creep up. Albeit, you know, it depends, there are functions of the economy and the Federal Reserve, what they do in the future, but all indications are that interest rates are on the rise. The 20-year federal funds rate has been climbing consistently, and currently it's around 3%.
Your palms are not sweating then, are your palms sweating?
That's a good
I'll never tell.
Okay.
You know, but one of the flip sides of the coin is when interest rates go up, you're picking up interest income, but our debt service is going to get more expensive. So as we roll out bonds, is there going to be an offset of this $200,000 or $400,000 in income with an additional burdens on our debt? That's, to me,
Don't you
is the
feel
big
this is
question.
conservative, though?
As rates are going up, well, rates are going up for everybody.
This
Your
is
borrowing costs are
conservative.
going up, and so your savings rates are going up.
But this
So
is a conservative amount.
I'm comfortable with this. I'm not
So I
saying I'm
think the
not.
question on the table is, have we, on the other side, Mr. Finance Director, have we taken into consideration rising interest rates on the
Right.
interest expense side?
Well, currently our interest rates are set for our current debt level.
Okay.
Any additional debt, yes, it'll be subject to market rates.
But again, as we roll out, isn't there a time lag between when we roll out the debt and when the interest expense hits our books?
I'm sorry.
Isn't there a little bit of a time lag when we issue our debt, when we have to actually pay the interest expense? It doesn't
Yeah,
happen
the
the
interest,
same.
normally we get charged, the interest is payable twice a year, July and January.
Okay.
So,
Doug?
Well, I applaud Lisa's hard work. For those of us with the numbers and stuff, I've learned a lot through the numbers and Lisa's help and Paul as well. And if we can get this lower and Greg feels comfortable with it, then I'm all for it. So I appreciate both of their hard
I'm
work.
okay with it. I'm okay with
You're
the
okay with
increase of the income.
Mike? Mike? Now you want to?
Do I make the motion now?
Mhm.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to amend the revenue portion of the budget, specifically the line item on interest income from $180,000 to $400,000 for a net increase of $220,000.
Second.
Any other? Well, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Next one? All right, this might be a little trickier, but, all right, once again, looking over the meeting minutes and looking over any opportunity that we have, our new grant writer just gave a presentation about finding, and I'm reading from her memo that was presented in the meeting minutes, $2,753,699 in grant funding, quote, most of which are new opportunities available during the next 12 months. So that to me says roughly half. I know I might be on a little bit of an edge here, but just stick with me. So if 1.4 million is new and available in the next 12 months, and let's say we can realize somewhere between 10 to 20% of that, $140 to $280, $280,000 in revenue that would not go directly to the program, perhaps. I'm still learning very
Aren't these
quickly.
grants, aren't
about-
they grants specific, for
Yes.
specific, like, what you had said was there were grants for
Yes.
funding for seniors.
For
that are not
unbudgeted
impacted.
projects.
Right,
Yes.
these are, right.
They can't be
So
used
these grants are for
alternative.
capital projects that aren't in the budget, so it would be an offset.
So it's my understanding that in some cases, and I don't know that in this case, that there's a provision sometimes for 10% of that grant money to go to administration of the grant. So wouldn't that be free money?
Have we gotten the grants yet though?
I would say that we were looking at, prior to, we were looking at town buildings for sale, and we said no to that in a prior council, at our prior council.
And putting it in the
Because,
budget?
putting it in the budget because it's an in-given, it's not 100%. So I would just suggest that, though it's
Be cautious about that.
an idea to be cautious
I
about.
appreciate the conservative nature that we need to have about this. However, I heard the public comments and I've seen public comments on social media about the economic development director. And I've been a champion for that because I think fundamentally we need an individual who has industry contacts to help bring us jobs to town, which is different than the previous economic development director's charter. So the price tag is very much market rate, but I tell you what, if that person doesn't bring jobs in the first 12 months, then I'm gonna not champion that position.
Right.
So I feel the same way about this grant writer position. If we didn't do it for budgetary relief, why did we do it?
But you can't just roll the dice and make, and.
Not roll the
feel that it's
dice, she
coming
gave
in.
us
No,
numbers.
she's saying if she doesn't bring money in, then we're cutting it.
Oh, I agree, but I'm just saying, we don't have the grants as of yet.
No,
And
and-
that's my
And
fear.
none of those grants will go against some of the expense items we already have rolled in there, or capital items. They're all gonna be accretive.
I think they're project specific.
Yeah.
No, I understand that, but there's
they're not
nothing
in our
accretive,
budget
and there's no administrative 10% that we're gonna get off those.
I think that's
I would
correct.
just say, Lisa, that's never a guarantee, and there's a huge risk to misappropriation of grant money, a very big risk, because there are fines, and I think if Tammy had stated that there were certain things that we could, which I think if there were, she would have mentioned that. She's aware of the need for operational expenses. So I just have to say, I do think that we need to, in this area, be pretty cautious. And as Pete points out, with the sale of some town property, it was the same kind of thing. It's hard to, I mean, it's attractive to want it, I understand that. But I think it could come back to be the wrong thing.
And if we get it, it'll be a bonus. I mean, next year with
Right.
with $1.8 billion in the hole for the state, we're gonna get smacked again. I mean, anybody who doesn't believe that's gonna happen is living in a fantasy world.
Right.
Because it's
And-
gonna be a bloodbath after this next
Without
election.
state money.
So I would rather kind of hold that in reserve, in my opinion, and let's hope for it. I hope she gets the 2.7, but I don't think we can count on even a sliver of that at the moment, in my opinion.
Especially for state grants.
Yeah.
Well,
State grants,
some
somebody's
are,
coming from
some are,
somebody.
Yeah,
Some
so
are.
you gotta think about that.
I think it's the chicken before the egg thing.
Yeah, I'd be cautious.
And I am a fiscally conservative person, but,
I know you
you know, again, I would hope in 15 months, and we.
No,
have
I
something
understand your
that's
point,
accretive.
is there's gonna be a savings either way, either we get grants or we have to eliminate the position, because it's not bringing the grants. So you're right, there's gonna be some savings there no matter what, in
Alright.
theory, but.
Do I need to take that motion off the table?
There was no motion made.
Okay.
No motion made. Okay.
Love the imagination.
Yeah,
That's good.
I appreciate it, thank you. I'm not, don't get me wrong.
Oh,
Yeah, I just want to make a statement as it relates to the Board of Education budget and the process involved with it. So I've been on the council, lucky enough to be on the council a little over 4 years now. And you know, sometimes you just say, well, this is the process, this is the way it is, and one thing I seem to get an answer of, well, this is the way we've always done it, this is the way we've always done it. So I've been lucky enough to serve on the Charter Revision Commission with about 11 other individuals, and one of the individuals on there is Tom Mulvihill. And Tom was a former administrator for the school system. He brought up a simple idea that I honestly had not contemplated, and shame on me. And you know, there's always this back and forth with the Board of Ed and the town. It almost seems like it's everyone's not in sync together. And one of the things that Tom suggested that I feel strongly we should implement, and if it's not in the charter, I think the mayor should consider it as a policy, is that prior to the Board of Ed starting their budgetary process, they have communication from the town side. The town needs to be providing information to the Board of Ed before they start their budgetary process. Right now what happens is the Board of Ed starts their budget, I don't know, when is it, October, November, somewhere around there. And they're flapping in the wind. They have no idea, and granted, we're not gonna have all our numbers, let's be clear about that. But we have some projections. Where do we think we are from a revenue perspective? What does the town see coming down the road for this coming fiscal year? as it relates to expenditures that the Board of Ed would have no clue about. So what Tom had suggested, and we don't know the exact format, was where the Director of Finance is working cooperatively to inform the Board of Ed, and I don't know how formal it would be, but it's gonna happen, in my opinion, but it's up to, I guess, the mayor, where the Board of Ed is kept abreast of the town side of the situation. So before they're starting their budget process, they're knowing the framework that the town has, that they can work with it. Because right now, the Board of Ed's going off on their own, the town's going off on their own, and then we both submit the budgets, and then they're trying to find how they come together. They should be coming together from the beginning. So tonight, I'm trying to start that process in my motion of not suggesting a $500,000 cut, but suggesting the $300,000 cut. And on top of it, we need to be partners when it comes to our capital items. The school's property is the town's property. The town's property is the town's property. We need to recognize that. We need to not say, oh, Board of Ed, you have an oil tank, you worried about it. Well, it all comes from the same pot at the end of the day, which is why as part of this we included, or I included two of the oil tanks, because we need to be partners in that. So I just think it's important that that's added for the record.
I concur.
Absolutely.
Just for the council's edification as well, as we've been meeting with our Board of Ed partners, we've been talking about jointly doing oil tank, just as you're suggesting, roofs are another things that we're talking about, and I wholeheartedly agree that moving forward, especially now that the new council will have the beginning of the budget year moving forward, that we can begin on July 5th, after the 4th, obviously holiday, 5th, and beginning our dialogues and talks of moving forward. I wholeheartedly agree that the budgetary process should be a 12-month process, as it is in the private sector. And we look at doing that in a 12-month holistic view. So I agree.
And I'm hopeful that the Board of Ed's gonna support this budget so we can get it approved, move on, and start the process sooner, not later.
Thank you. Councilwoman Francis?
I didn't have anything more to say.
Oh, I thought you said something.
No, I said, yeah, I agree.
The only comment I have is the budget that we're creating is not the best, but I think it's the best alternative. I mean, you know, as I said, you know, we're keeping pretty much both budgets flat. You know, the small percentage of the school and the town's completely flat. We are keeping them flat, but we have a 3.2% increase. The state did that to us. There's not much we can do about it. You know, so, you know, and next year if it continues, we might have to look at negative budgets because of, you know, we can't have 3% tax increases every year. We'll, you know, especially people on fixed incomes can't afford it. So, you know, it's something we'll have to look at. This year we did the best we can with a flat budget, and you know, as you said, you got to start from day one, figuring out how to think outside the box in order to get to where we need to be, so that it's an affordable place to live with good schools and a good town.
Mike?
So, just educate me for a minute. So from the last budget that we all voted on, what are you proposing then? $200,000 goes to the school. But
Correct, so it's a
really-
reduction of 300,000, because we always look at it as it
Right.
relates to the budget that.
So we did $500,000, we agreed at $500,000 last time. Just let me finish my thought.
I just wanted to put some numbers out there, if my math is right. So the last budget.
Just trying to understand it.
Yeah, so the budget that just did not pass was, on the BOE side, was 63,310,586. With a $300,000 reduction, it'd be 63,010,586.
Yeah. So you're correct in what you were saying. Your
Okay.
thought process
And then
is correct.
because we voted on the town budget twice and it passed twice, we're just leaving that alone. Is that right?
We're changing. Some of the revenue that we're getting from the state is gonna be used for one-time capital expenditures, for the oil tanks, for the POCD, for the reval, and for the ban costs associated with the roofs, for 3 school roofs that need to be replaced.
But that wasn't in the budget last time, was it?
That's correct.
Correct.
That's correct.
So we're leaving the budget alone and just taking that
We're
$1.5
adjusting
million
those.
and just putting it over here for now.
For about $1 million.
And if we get the money, then we can do it.
All right, I'm with you.
So here might be the confusing part though, right? So you gotta break apart the numbers that Paul just mentioned, but then for referendum, they get added together. So it's gonna look like an increase on the town side, but what he's really saying is the operating line stays at 36,408,081, and it's the capital line that goes from 1,776,000 and change to 2,651,000 and change. Do you want me to give you exact numbers?
That's correct.
Exact numbers would be 36,408,081 is the referendum that just passed. That would stay at 36,408,081 for the next referendum. The capital line would be 1,776,235 from the failed budget. That would increase to, is that right? 2,651,235?
That's correct.
Did I get that right? Okay, sorry. 261. 2,651,235.
So we have some education to people out there, so they don't just look at the numbers and say, why did you raise the town side?
Exactly. I'm very uncomfortable with that.
It is scary.
I understand the logic. I'm uncomfortable with that, I'm uncomfortable with the tax rate.
I mean, I don't know, do we even have to put that?
I'm not a math major, but I guess I'm gonna have to have Paul explain this to me again. We put in 500,000 to the Board of Ed side. Now we're taking out 300,000?
So when the town council proposed the budget
500.
to the Board of Finance originally, there was a 0 increase.
Okay.
Then what's happened over the course of the failed budgets, the most recent budget was a $500,000
Right.
increase for Board of Ed.
Right.
What I proposed was a $300,000 reduction in that. So they would
Okay,
get
so that's
200,000 more
200,000.
than we
But then
originally.
from the unassigned fund, we're gonna take 242?
No, we're reducing that by $242,724. So that'd be 250,000 would be budgeted, which is every year how it's been budgeted.
Okay.
Really, so the town side, the only real change is how much we're taking.
I don't think Walter was done.
Oh, sorry.
Well, to me, education is definitely one of the jewels of any community. And when people move into a community, what do they ask about? How is the school system? How good is the school system? And it's fluid. The Board of Education, the budget is fluid. There are state mandates, there are federal mandates. If you outplace a special ed student, that could cost you $100,000, $200,000 for one kid. I just, and I know it's a conundrum every year dealing with the Board of Ed budget. But you can't be pecking away at it, chopping away at it, slicing away at it, until you reduce it to shambles. You're gonna turn the Milford into a ghost town. And I believe that. If we destroy the education system, I'm gonna have to vote no obviously on this side. On the other side, the town side, the town passed it twice. How am I going to say no to that? On the Board of Ed side, I say no to that.
I just want to be clear with Mr. Barrett, and Chairman Lawson had spoken about the POE failed twice. And so he came in tonight and he proposed the 200,000 to work with us. So that's what, they've come to us to decide. So that's just trying to be clear that.
I don't know if they did that.
Well, he spoke about 200,000. Correct?
He didn't speak of that, so.
Okay, my apologies, and I thought that's where the 200,000.
He did mention compromise.
The compromise, okay. My apologies.
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, Walter, but the problem we have is, you know, the school is getting 63,310,000. And it failed. And we were going to reduce that, but then the day before the state says, well, you know, you're going to get this 1.5 million. So we said, oh, let's put some of that to the town, and we used the same numbers, and it failed again. Just because we want it doesn't mean they're going to vote for it. You know, and that's our problem. They showed us twice that unless you start really looking at hard choices with the school budget, we're gonna keep pulling these things down. And so we have to do some kind of cut. It's not easy choices and it's gonna be hard for everyone, but if we leave that flat, I guarantee you that that thing's gonna get voted down again. No matter how many times the town budget passes, that school budget can lose by 1 vote. We're starting this process over again. And so
Mike, that's the beauty of democracy. We can disagree.
No, but as I said, my goal here is to get a reasonable budget that I feel the town people are going to support.
And I'm not opposed to that. Not opposed.
So my only fear is what Lisa says is the looking at looking at another way to put that 600,000, 525,000, you know, saying if we get the state money, it's going to go to this, but someone kind of wanted not put it in the budget, but you know, just assume we're not going to get the money from the state, and if it does, then we can sit at the council and vote to put it towards that later. I don't know if that's possible or not, because it's going to look like a big increase in the town side when this thing goes to budget.
Yes, just to the public, if you guys can keep your side comments quiet, because I can't, it's very hard to hear and concentrate on what's going on. You know, when 2008 happened, I can't believe it's been 10 years already. And you know, businesses were faced with many, many difficulties. And after running a business for almost 30 years, I made cuts. It was very simple. I closed offices. I reduced my staff. It was very simple. And I went after the clients that I needed in order to keep the business running. So the Board of Ed needs to do the same thing. They need to cut, cut, cut. And, you know, I'm all about compromise, and $200,000 is an awful lot of money to me. But I'm willing to compromise and vote yes to get it through. Yesterday, I wanted it flat. I said, why? We're down 1,000 students. 1,000 students. One school's closed. What is going on with the cash? And as a businessman, if I saw that, I go, well, we got to do X, Y, and Z. It's very clear. So I'm willing to move it ahead and do the $200,000, but that no more than that. Thank you.
Tom?
I'd like to call this vote.
Please.
Are we ready?
Would you like to read the motion again? For the council members, please?
Well, at Walter's request, we'll split it up. So actually, let me just make a motion to divide. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So that
Thank you.
splits up the town to the Board of Ed. So the
Yes.
first that we'll vote on is the Board of Ed. So the motion that is on the table for the Board of Ed is to reduce their budget by $300,000 for a total amount of $63,010,000, $10,586.
Second.
Mr. Katie seconded it. Elaine? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No Walters opposition?
On the town side, and Lisa, you're gonna have to step in on your part.
Okay.
The motion that's on the table is the assessor revaluation will be funded in the amount of $350,000. Capital items for 5 oil tank replacements, the POCD, and the roof, the 3 school roofs interest in the amount of $525,000. A reduction in the transfer in from the unassigned, which was $492,724 to $250,000, which represents a reduction of $242,724, and an increase in interest income from
$180,000 to $400,000.
for a total amount of, Craig? No, but do you have the
The
total
total for the budget.
town
The
side?
total
For
for
the
the,
top side of the budget, $39,059,316.
second.
Did you want me to, just comment,
There's no motion for the need for the referendum.
yeah, these are motions in need for referendum, the actual wording.
Oh, okay.
So do we need to read those out loud then? Okay, I'm gonna slide it over. Item.
Are we in discussion?
I mean, we should finish what Paul said and then we can just read it.
We have a second in the motion.
We don't have a
second.
We still,
Yeah, we're seconds on the table, it's discussion.
Right.
right, we're in the discussion portion. Ms. Francis.
I think obviously, we don't want to do too much to cause another referendum, but I just want to be clear about the capital amount that Paul has put together. It's Sarah Noble, I mean, this is a compromise, town and school, but it's Sarah Noble's oil tank, East Street, the Board of Ed office oil tank, Town Hall is in there too, the police department, and then, of course, at Pettibone, it's just gonna come out and not go back. But the POCD, which we need to do, that money is in there, and then, of course, the interest. So it is a good compromise
The
of
roof bands.
the roof, that's what I have, I'm sorry, that's what I said again, was the interest for the roof bands. It's a compromise, and, as you said, from your charter work, compromise, beginning now with our own budget, we're not working off the budget from last year, with a different council, different mayor, that now is the time to move forward July 5th and get together day one and start the process. As a business would, as I've said before, if this town was a business, we'd be failing because we don't look at things in a reasonable, forward-thinking, strategic way, and that's what we need to do. We are all together. It isn't them against us, town against ed. You can't look at it that way. There's a way to find great education. We have good education. We have great teachers, great administrators. There's a way to make it work. If it hurts a little bit, it hurts everybody. It hurt the town and laid people off. But we're 28-some thousand people. We have to look at it and step back and try to be objective and see that going down the road, this will help.
Again, I know the town or the community voted twice for the town side. I'm still unhappy with the town side of the budget. Volunteer firemen come before me, whatever they want, I would give them. Can you imagine if we have to pay a fire department? Then you're gonna hear some hollering and screaming about the taxes. But I'll go with it.
Can I just make a comment about that? Can I say something? So I want to marry up what Katie said and what Walter just said. And I know what I did was a little late in the game, and this will be wildly controversial, but no surprise there. So it's surprising to me that during the budgetary process, when various groups came before us asking for vehicle and equipment replacement, there was no detail. There was no, if you look at any other municipality in a vehicle, they would give us the age, they give us a run rate on expenses, they'd give us the mileage, none of that. So today, because I was scrambling for every dollar I could, I put out a call to the different fire chiefs. And I just said, hey, I didn't tell them what it was about, so shame on me, but I called them and said, hey, can you give me a call? Gave my cell phone number. Nobody called me back because that $250,000 has no detail behind it. So I'm having a hard time with how we don't have the right processes in place to help us make good decisions. We need to be a little bit more stringent about our business acumen when it comes to helping us make good decisions on behalf of the taxpayer.
And then, Lisa, to your point, when it comes to, for instance, fire capital, we'll have the fire chiefs come in, July, August meeting, they'll come in with their capital plan.
That'd be great.
Kind of what's going on, and we can have a discussion with the fire
great.
chiefs.
Okay.
Mike?
Yeah, I think it's important if we're giving money away to be able to know where it goes. And having sat on the United Way board, there were certain protocols and certain, if goals weren't now met, then it was very simple. They did get the money for the next year. We need outcomes. We need to know where the money's going to Lisa's point. To be able to say, hey, you know, the volunteer fire department, they need 10 new gas tanks or oxygen tanks or whatever they need, and they're $1,000 a piece. Okay, I need 10 grand. Great, happy to help.
So just to come on to that point, it was great to hear, I can't remember, I think it was Lieutenant Covelli, last town council, showed the dog collars. Knew how much they cost, found an anonymous donor, awesome. But because the detail was there, we were able to do that, right? So I think there's something there that we could take advantage of.
Walter?
I certainly wouldn't argue against Lisa's point or Michael's point. But again, if a fireman comes before me, yeah, we need to know inventory. But I tell you, if it comes to the day we have to pay a fire department, it's going to be a big problem.
Point well taken. Point
Yeah,
well taken.
big time.
Point well taken.
No, I mean, the fire department, it's a capital improvement fund. To Lisa's point, if they come here throughout the year when they meet with us and say, all right, here's where you short us this year, here's the deficit, here's where the problem's going to be down the road, we can look at that and make an educated decision and put it back in next year, if it's needed. And now we're having for nonprofits, we're having a system in place for nonprofits to explain to us why they should get money from the town. They can come to that, go through that process, and then we can make an educated decision. And there's going to be steps in place that they have to do in order to show us and prove to us that it is in the town's best interest to support this nonprofit. And so, yes, they're not getting their money now, but it's not like these places are going away. I know that, the VNA's got a fair amount of money saved up, and next year, as I said, if they feel that they need the money from the town, they can go through that process. Same with the fire department and all the other agencies and stuff. They have to prove to us because we have to be stringent on how we give that money out.
There's one comment. When I mentioned business, and Lisa and I both feel this way, I think, it's not just a matter of showing an accounting of what you want. And this goes for everybody, including our town departments. You need to show what have you done with what you had. Have you moved forward? Have you had successes? Where haven't you? What are you doing? Are you working on economy of scale? Are you looking at where your failures were and how you're not going to fail again? We have a habit. It's no one's fault. It's a municipal town, small town moving along. You have to have accountability, and it has to be hard numbers. There's no other way to make a decision. If we're going to do it for nonprofits who come to us for any amount of money that we might have to dole out, they're going to have to show not only their value and who they're going to serve, but we need to know after, just like the nonprofit I work for, after 3 months, after 6 months, what have you done with that money? And you're not going to get any more if you're not able to do that, because that's all part of it. And Tammy knows that as a grant specialist. That's why you have to be very careful how you use the money that you get. So I think it's all workable, and I think we're just going through the growing pains as many towns have. But we're starting now with our budget and what we have all done as a group, and hopefully we'll be great with it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Third, you want to do the
So we're going to do the...
Yeah, so then I make a motion to hold the third budget referendum on July 19th between the hours of 6 a.m. June, sorry. I was just testing. I was making sure you guys were all still paying attention. You passed.
That was a test.
That's really a hard check.
Yeah, I know.
Here I think everyone falls asleep when we're talking. Motion to hold the third budget referendum on June 19th between the hours of 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. pursuant to Town Charter, Section 707, with the following questions to be voted on pursuant to action of the Town Council on June 7th, 2018. A. Question 1. shall the sum of, and Greg, correct me if this is wrong, 39,590,000, no, what is it?
No, 59,000.
59,316.
Okay, that's what I asked. Let me just fix it over here. Shall the sum of $39,059,316 be appropriated as the annual town government budget for the 2018-19 fiscal year, yes or no? B, question 2. Shall the sum of $63,010,586 be appropriated as the annual Board of Education budget for the 2018-19 fiscal year, yes or no? Non-binding advisory questions, response is voluntary. C, question 3. If the budget is defeated, do you wish to see the amount of $39,059,316 for general town government increased? Yes or no? D, question 4. If the budget is defeated, do you wish to see the amount of $63,010,586 for education increased? Yes or no?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Motion
Council
to,
members can come to my office after the meeting to sign the resolution. I appreciate it.
motion to adjourn, Mr. Mayor.
Do I have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. If everybody could come down and sign on the form.
Paul, can I ask a question? I'm trying to understand. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Peter?